Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I've got two individuals with us tonight from Kyiv, Ukraine, talking about saving Ukrainian children. And so I'll let you hear from them directly who they are, what they're doing. We're going to talk maybe a little bit about what life is like in Kyiv, and most importantly, talk about their efforts and how we might be able to help them. Please introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I'm Mykola Kuleba, head of Save Ukraine organization who rescuing children from Russia and occupied territories.
Hey, and my name is Anastasia Dovnya, and I'm responsible for government relations for Save Ukraine.
Excellent. And you're both in Kyiv right now, is that correct?
Yes.
So tell me,
and not only in Kyiv, but we are in our Hope and Healing Center. This is a rehabilitation center for children and their families after reunification. After being rescued, we reunify them with their families, and they can live here for 6 months and have rehabilitation program.
So let me ask you what the problem is. I have been hearing that there are tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of children that have been abducted from primarily eastern Ukraine, where Russia is occupying, and they've taken them back to Russia. Is that at all correct?
Unfortunately, the numbers are estimated to be much, much more higher because the 20,000 number that is probably most widespread between the audience is the number that was named early in 2023. And as we know that officially stated by Russian ombudsman, person responsible for children in Russia, it is more than 700,000 of Ukrainian children that were officially registered in Russia. That means that more than 700,000 children were forcibly transferred deep into Russia Federation. And now, unfortunately, we do not have any information about their status, about their whereabouts. And what is even more horrifying, that all the crimes that Russia is committing to these children, meaning abduction, militarization, meaning changing their identity, breaking their sense of trust, breaking their family bonds, they are also doing that to children who are trapped on occupied territories, because those children cannot just leave these territories. And it means that in total, calculating both children who are in Russia and in occupied territories, it's about 1.6 million of children whose lives have been stolen and who are now under Russian control, meaning being literally in Russian captivity with no connection to official mechanism or any official authorities to Ukraine, which they can safely contact and tell that they wanted to be rescued.
1.6 million Ukrainian children.
Yeah.
This is astounding. Where are they? Are they in orphanages? Are they in camps? Do you have a sense of what their life is like?
Nobody knows, because for 11 years, many things happened with that kids, many of them young adults now, and especially boys who are, as the Russian soldiers fighting against us, they had only one track, being in Crimea or Donbass. Because it's like Ivan, one of our survivors. He lives here. He's 18 now. But when his territory in Lugansk region was occupied, he was 7. It was a little kid. He just after occupation went to his school, but it was Russian school. He found himself in Russian school with Russian subjects, with Russian teachers, and he grew up as a Russian boy, because they told him that you are a Russian boy, you're not Ukrainian anymore. And he did not know about Ukraine. And only when he had 16, he found some guys in internet from Ukraine, and they told him, you are Ukrainian boy. He told, no, no way. He told, yes, you are Ukrainian because your territory were occupied and it was Ukraine. He told, no, give me a proof. And they sent him a lot of information, videos, and he tried to provide his research, and he found and realized that his Ukrainian boy is true, and he collected money just to left their territories. He received even Russian international passport. He has Russian passport, Russian international passport, and he crossed the border with Belarus, and he reached our consular there, and he asked, "I'm Ukrainian boy. I won't come back to my country because I lived 11 years under occupation, and now he's in Kiev, and he is a strong voice of children who've been brainwashed, who've been from territories which were occupied, and now he's a strong voice for that kids who stay there, and it is 1.6 million. We are talking about all kids who've been in occupied territories after 2014, after 2022, and more than 700,000 were transferred to Russia, because Maria Lvova-Belova 2 years ago stated that we registered more than 700,000 Ukrainian children. And you ask, who are that children? Nobody knows, because Russia don't want to give any information to Ukrainian authorities. We don't know how many of them with their families were transferred, how many of them unaccompanied minors, how many of them were which parents were killed, arrested, filtrated, disappeared. We don't know.
So you said 11 years. I thought the war in Ukraine only started 2-3 years ago. So this has been going on since what? The invasion of Crimea?
No, it's a full-scale invasion happened more than 3 years ago, but the war happened after 2014 when Russia invaded Crimea, Donbass. This war happened 11 years
And
ago.
the abduction of children have been going on since Crimea.
Yes, Crimea. Many kids, by the way, were adopted from Crimea and lived in Russian families. And where are they? Who knows?
What's happened?
And many, just you to know that because adoption process in Russia, they are changing their last names and date of birth. That's why it's very hard to find Ukrainian children who've been not only brainwashed, they receive Russian citizenship and their names, last names were changed through adoption process.
What's happened to the parents? Have the parents likely died, or do the parents actually know that their children have been abducted?
No, it's many of them were killed, like in Mariupol. Thousands of parents were killed in Mariupol. And I mentioned Maria Lvova-Belova. You can find these videos, her videos, when she, after invasion 2022, kidnapped kids from Mariupol. And she left one kid in his family. And she's very proud. She reported herself to Putin. And Putin asked her, "Oh, I know that you took one kid from Mariupol." She told, "Oh, yeah, this is my kid." It's you know that it's like a spoils of war for Russia.
Who is this individual? I'm not sure if everyone listening tonight knows who this individual is.
Philip, it's a boy, Philip.
No, the female that you mentioned that met with Putin. Who is
Maria? It's Maria Lvova-Belova. It is the Putin's commissioner for children's rights, so-called commissioner for children's rights, and she and Putin received warrant order from International Criminal Court as a war criminals.
As a war criminal for abduction of children.
Yes.
So tell me, what does your organization do?
Yeah, so as for now, Save Ukraine is an organization that is operating from 2014, but now largest, who is rescuing Ukraine's stolen children, both from Russia and occupied territories. As for now, we rescued around 680 children, and 147 of them were orphans. We have a team, special team, who is investigating, who is identifying these kids, locating, communicating with them, making them trust a person who works for us to actually even think of the way to be rescued. And after that, we built like a special operation when we are rescuing these kids to bring them back either from occupied territories or from deep into Russia to make for them all documents, all legal procedures, and all logistics to come back home. After that, our organization is providing them with full scale of rehabilitation and reintegration services, because what is the most important is you should understand that those kids who we are rescuing are in very, very vulnerable state. For example, thanks to the support of Canadian Ukrainian Foundation, Canadian government, we are now identifying and locating these children, bringing them back, and we do see that in each story of these children, we see different types of crimes that were committed. For example, they were not allowing orphans to go through the checkpoints, putting them into the filtration measures, not allowing them to contact their foster parents, just to cut all the contacts and to make it much more easily to adopt these children by Russian families, to change all the data about them and to make them untraceable. Other kids, they recalled attempts to human trafficking for the aim of militarization, to conscript into the Russian army, when kids were literally taught how to handle weapons and how to be convinced and prepared to serve in the war on the Russian side. As well, what it happens on occupied territories and in Russia is sexual abuse and attempts for sexual abuse, where when girls who are coming to us, and boys as well, they are recalling when they were forced to, for example, go and show just empty houses for military officers. And they knew that if they would go, they will be under the threat of human trafficking and sexual abuse. And that is why what our organization offers to these children is 3 to 6 months housing with a full pack of everything that a child and a family, once they are reunited, if a child has a family, for their just regaining the sense of stability, the sense of normalcy, for them to continue their lives and to just remember what it is like to live in a comparable safety.
It sounds like you're doing an incredible job, but if you're only able to get, what'd you say, 680 of over 1 million, it's a drop in the bucket. My God, there's
we are rescuing the most vulnerable ones, that kids who've been separated with their parents, who've been militarized, who've been taken to Russian military academies, that kids who've been trafficked or sexually abused. We are searching these kids and locating them in occupied territories in Russia. Yeah, because many of these kids have their parents. Yeah, but they are in trap. They cannot leave that territories because it's impossible. Yeah, Russia are blocking any rescue. That's why we are searching the most vulnerable ones and helping them to escape.
Well, we're going to take a break for some messages, and when we come back, I'm going to ask you how the heck you do this. Both from an actual physical, how do you do it, but how do you also raise the money, and how we can help. But stay with us, everyone. We'll be back in just 2 minutes.
Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. Really interesting conversation today with two people from an organization, Kyiv, Ukraine, that is saving Ukrainian children that are abducted to Russia and or the Russian occupied territories in eastern Ukraine, and trying to find them and bring them back to Ukraine. And it sounds like you're doing quite a lot in regards to sort of their reintroduction into society and supporting them from a monetary standpoint, but also a counseling standpoint. Would you mind introducing yourselves again and what your positions are with the organization? Hello, can you tell us what your names are?
I'm Mykola Kuleba, founder and CEO of Save Ukraine organization, CEO of Save Ukraine organization.
And Anastasia?
Yeah, and my name is Anastasia Dovnya. I'm responsible for government relations for Save Ukraine.
And the organization is called?
Save Ukraine.
Save Ukraine. And do you have a website that people can go to if they're interested in more information about you?
Yeah, please come, and you can easily find us and help us rescue more kids. SaveUkraineUA.org.
SaveUkraineUA.org. So we were just chatting before the break about the people that you're trying to find. How do you find them? Like, do you find them through social media, through the internet, through information from people in Russia? Like, how the heck do you actually find these people?
Actually, it works through different ways. For example, one and which we really ask you to spread, if you know anyone on occupied territories, is our hotline and the means when the families could directly contact us by reaching our through social media or just by calling, because it's very important and very widespread when families are contacting us by knowing this number. They sometimes pass this number written in on paper, their willingness to come to Ukraine when they want. And very effective mean of how children are being contacting us is when a child who been rescued, who came there safe, pass home, they are coming back and they are here healed and rehabilitated with our services, and they are contacting the other children telling that it's safe here and it's worth to be rescued, that there is somebody who will care about them and there is somebody who will provide services for them. And when they do either contact them directly or do give us information about these kids, it's important for us to contact them as soon as possible, because what Russia is doing is that they are trying to cut all our means of how to rescue these children, all our ways of contacts with these families and these children, because they do clearly know that each child that we are rescuing is a proof of crime, that they will tell what happened to them on occupied territories, and that is why it becomes more and more difficult and dangerous.
Well, once you find them, how are you actually able to get them out of either Russia or the occupied territories? Like, how do you do that?
We can tell you a lot because it's like a special operation. We helping families there, and we try to not to speak a lot about it. Yeah, but we can tell you that we helping them to escape, and we helping them to receive all kind of support during their traveling, because it's very, you can find, for example, on CBS 60 Minutes program about our rescues and stories, how families try to find their kids and how we help them. Yeah, but because Russia now blocking this, and because every child who been rescued is a witness of war crime, we try not to tell a lot about it.
So I heard a statistic that maybe you can confirm or not, that 1 in 4 Ukrainians has blood relatives in Russia. So there must be a lot of people that actually know people on the other side of the border. How does that play in this situation?
I don't know. I'm not sure that one of force people is blood. I don't know what you mean, because we everybody should understand that Ukraine is independent country, and we are separate nation. We are not Russian people. We are Ukrainians, and we have our own sovereignty. And yeah, and especially many Ukrainians have their relatives who lives in Russia, and huge Ukrainian diaspora in Russia, but and as well in Canada.
Yeah, no, there's a very sizable Ukrainian
More than 1
diaspora.
million Ukrainians live in Canada.
Yep, no, a very sizable Ukrainian diaspora in Canada.
Yeah.
Tell me, these Ukrainians that are in Russia, or these relatives, these cousins that live in Russia, do they understand what's going on, or have they been subject to propaganda and believe what Putin is saying?
No, it's hard to understand. Many of them have been brainwashed, and they believe that Ukraine is a Nazi country, and Putin really he is a crazy for Ukraine. He wants to grab all territory and make all of this territory part of Russian Empire, and that's why we are fighting for our families, for our independence, and. We don't want to be Russian slaves as it was in Soviet Union, and we are rescuing families from Russia and occupied territories, and many of them really have been brainwashed. They have only one source of information. It's Russian public source. And for example, it just told the war word. Yeah, the war. It's forbidden in Russia. It's forbidden because
The
for
war,
Russia,
the word war is forbidden in Russia. Seriously?
yeah, yes, it's forbidden. Yeah, because they don't believe. They believe that it's not a war. It's like special operation of Russia to clean territory from Nazi. You know, that's denazification, demilitarization of Ukraine. It's these narratives in Russian media that it's like special operation. It is not war, and not many Russians understand what happened in Ukraine. They don't understand how many shellings we have even in Kiev. Every night and day we have shellings, and every day we have people who died on the challenge, who were killed, and children, innocent children, are were killed. Many of them because Russia shelling us. Yeah, and it's civilians. It's not the militaries. And because a real strategy, Russia's strategy, is annihilate Ukrainian identity. I am Ukrainian. My children, I have 4 kids. We are Ukrainians, and Stasia Ukrainian, because we want to live in Ukrainian being independent. But for Putin, we are Nazi because we don't want to live in Russia Empire. We really don't want. We want to stay Ukrainian. We want to live in our country. We want our children live in our country. And my older daughter, 27, I asked her, she was born in independent Ukraine. I was born in Soviet Union, grew up in Soviet Union. I asked her, how your Ukrainian identity grew up, because I was post-Soviet guy with your mother, and she what is Ukraine for you? She told, oh, it is my family. For me to betray Ukraine, it's like betrayed my family. You know, it's my country. I'm Ukrainian. That's why that people who think that Ukraine and Russia are the same nation, no. Ukraine, it is a nation. We have our history, and our history more centuries than Russian history. And people don't know this. That's why through Russian propaganda they believe that we are the same country. No, it's like, if I will tell you, oh, Canada is the same as United States. Are you American? You will tell me, are you crazy? I'm Canadian. What are you talking about? It's the same for us. If you will tell me that I'm Russian, I'll tell you, what are you talking about? I don't understand. We have a different language, different nation. That's why people should understand that we are fighting for our freedom, for our independence, for our children, because this war on children, and Ukraine lost for 11 years 50% of children's population because they were. Because as we told you, 1.6 million, it's 20% of children's population stayed in occupied territories, and many of them have been transferred forcibly. And 30% were fleeing abroad and live in Canada, in United States, in Europe. And they can come back because it is a war. It is a real Russia strategy to destroy Ukraine and our sovereignty as a nation, and annihilate Ukrainian identity.
So I appreciate that. But Putin obviously thinks something different. And even Donald Trump, the president of the United States, has suggested something different. And they've said that most of Ukraine was part of Russia, whether it was during the Soviet Union or, in hundreds of years previous, that the Tsar had a home in Kiev, that most of Western Ukraine was part of Poland, that Ukraine has been part of Russia, part of Poland, part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, that Ukraine has never been a completely separate, independent country. It's always been part of other countries. How do you respond to that?
It's very simple, because we've been under the different empires. But it doesn't mean that we cannot exist, because we've been in different, and many countries have been included to different empires in different centuries, but now they are independent. They have their nationality, and many nationalities in Russia, they have no freedom. They are like ethnic group in Russia Empire. But we are not just ethnos, we are nationality. And we have our own borders. And Russia violated international legislation and violated our borders and our independence. And we are fighting for our freedom. That's why I'm telling you, my relatives, my grandfather, they lived here, and they've been Ukrainian. If you ask them 200 years ago who you are, they answer we are Ukrainians. And this is my answer. But because Russia invasion 100 years ago, and Russia murdered millions of Ukrainians through famine, through many have been imprisoned, through deportation, many have been deported to Russia Empire, to different territories. And we lost millions of Ukrainians through Russia invasion, through Russia Empire. They tried to destroy us at all. But we were fighting, and we are fighting now, and we are grateful for that, Canadians, who's standing with us. If you are believers and can pray, thank you for your prayers. If you can help us financially, and many Canadians supporting us, we are working with Canadian Ukrainian Foundation, and they supporting us, supporting Ukraine, and especially helping us rescue more kids and provide their recovery and return them to their homes, to their native land from Russia, and to reintegrate them into Ukrainian local communities. And many Canadians still with us, not from Ukrainian diaspora only, but Canadians who understand what does it mean. And you in your history has the same with Aboriginal population. You know what does it mean. And now Canadians understand that it was not good. And many Ukrainians in occupied territories feel the same.
So if we want to give, we go to saveukraine.ua.org. Is that correct?
Yes, and not only give, but to invest in child's life, because it's not just giving, it's investment for rescuing kid, for whole kid's life, not to be saved from Russia, human trafficking, or sexual abuse or separation with the family. And you can invest in one child's life.
We're going to take a break for some messages and come back in just 2 minutes with our guests coming to us from Kyiv, Ukraine, talking about Russian abduction of children during the Ukraine-Russian war. Stay with us, everyone. Back in 2 minutes. Welcome back, everyone, to the Brian Crombie Radio Hour. I've got two individuals coming to us tonight from Kyiv, Ukraine, who are with an organization called Save Ukraine that's focused on helping Ukrainian children that have been abducted during the Russian war of Ukraine, the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And not just for the last 3 years, but actually for the last 11 years since Ukraine invaded and took over and annexed Crimea, and then also continuing with the invasion and annexation of the Donbass region. I wonder if the two of you could introduce yourselves to us again and tell us, if you could, why you got involved in this organization. Anastasia, can you start?
Sure, yeah. My name is Anastasia Dobnya. I'm responsible for government relations for Save Ukraine. And I've got involved being absolutely driven by a mission to help Ukrainian children, and especially during the war, because you've been asking us before how it is like to live in Ukraine, in Kyiv. And, I'm just came out from abroad, and I've been asked, are you really living in Ukraine, knowing that the shelling could be every night, knowing that you're going to say goodbye to people who are now how we used to be your friends and now they are on a front line and they cannot survive. And yes, that is something that I've got involved to do because I felt that that's a mission to help the most vulnerable, and that's part of the mission now, to tell their stories here for a distinguished audience between the Canadians, because we do really feel this support, that Canadians are the ones who could feel the same, that no one child, especially in occupied territories or those who are Russia are abducting, should be left behind. And that was my inner motivation to be involved here and to give all my passion to this organization.
Anastasia, tell me, you're a young lady. What's it like day in and day out living in Kyiv today?
It's not something that I could expect to appear in. I've been, it's 3 years ago, I've been studying, and I could not even think of that I could be studying in the midst of war. And when I've been studying international relations, I could see how international order is breaking down, absolutely. And that's why, as for me now, it's about surviving amidst the war and doing anything that you can to provide help and to provide any resources that you may have to the most vulnerable, and to amplify, for first and foremost, their voice for their rescue.
And she didn't tell that time she was in Canada. She had a program in Canada and came back to Ukraine, just fight for Ukrainian children.
Where were you in Canada?
Yeah, I've been in Toronto, and I was supported by Tamarty Foundation, the one that also now supporting the rescue of kids through our organization. And that's why Canada has really played quite a primary and distinguished role in my personal development as well.
Excellent. And you, sir? Tell us about yourself.
I'm Mykola Kuleba, founder and CEO of Save Ukraine. This is an organization I founded after first invasion 2014, and I devoted to serve kids for 26 years. And I started after Soviet Union collapsed and worked with these street children. And then 7 years after first invasion, I was on the highest position in my country and protected children's rights as a children's ombudsman. It's like children's advocate in Canada, in Ontario. And I work very closely with Irvin Ellman, children's advocate in Ontario. And he is our friend, and he's helping us, and as many Canadians who's supporting our rescue mission to bring more kids from occupied territories and Russia, and especially Canadian Ukrainian Foundation, who are close our friends who helping us in our rescue missions and in a building, especially solution for orphans who lost their parents.
Tell me about the emotional toll it must have had on you, sir, if you could. I would have thought, after meeting numerous different people, if not over 600 children that have been abducted and then rescued from Russia, and hearing their stories of militarization, of sexual abuse, you've suggested, of not knowing who their parents are, not knowing what their nationality is, etc. How do you get up every day and keep doing this? I would have thought it would have been an incredible emotional toll on you.
I would say that this emotional toll is exactly something that forces us to get up every morning, because and that's something that is pushing you to take action more and more, because it's the pain that forces you. And being told about Canada Ukrainian Foundation, now they are running with us a joint campaign, which is literally using the slogan that every child deserves a future. And this is the thought that is motivating to endure this emotional toll, because it's very difficult to see the first hugs of a girl who is 7 years old, who for 3 years did not see her mother being captured in occupied territories, while her mother was a civilian captured in Russian captivity deep into Russia. And it's very hard to see how a child, little girl, is literally not used to see, to hug, to communicate with her parents. And it's hard to understand what is the way ahead of them. It's hard to know, for example, the story of a boy who is living now in our programs and is going through the rehabilitation with his grandmother, who we rescued after their parents were killed by Russians after double hit, the tactic that Russians are using when they are hitting a house during the shelling attack. And when people are coming to rescue their neighbors, they're hitting twice to kill everybody who, due to their will, tried to rescue those who might have survived. And we know that now this, for example, child still don't know what happened to their parents, who essentially died just in a sec. And knowing all these stories, we do understand that these stories are filled with pain, and it's something that somebody who is very young, who did not do anything wrong, who did not mistreated anybody, should survive. And it's a way for them either to face it on their own, being face to face with no services, with no help, being just left amidst of war, bombing, amidst of crimes that Russia is committing, just to erase Ukraine from the ground using these children, or they would be backed up with some adults and with strong individuals with international support. And I would personally prefer the second one. And that's, I guess, something that motivates everybody, which is driven by the mission of helping kids, being either in our organization or just supporting worldwide, to back up those, to be strong support for them, and to make them believe that they're not alone in this unjust war.
Now, I understand that Putin has been declared a war criminal because of this, but such an organization or such a situation, if it's happened to hundreds of thousands of children, has got to have a whole organization behind it, a whole policy behind it, a whole plan behind it. There's got to be hundreds of people, hundreds of Russians that are involved in actually the policy of abducting children and sending them somewhere. What should happen to all these people that are with knowledge actually involved in this program of abduction and brainwashing? What do you think should happen to them?
First of all, we should know all the names and all information about them to be able to persecute them. And what is important that persecuting them and accountability for all the crimes that they committed is actually one of the integral parts of rehabilitation and reintegration of all victims of these crimes, because you could not be absolutely rehabilitated once you know that someone who committed sexual abuse or violated any of your rights is just free and not punished. And there are various international mechanisms that are now being discussed, such as a special tribunal or sanctions list. And just in a week, we are coming to a distinguished conference in London about crimes and accountability on Russian aggression, and especially on a crime of child abduction. And we will discuss with UK parliamentarians, with European experts and Ukrainian one, what should be the decision taken on an international level, how to persecute and how to make them accountable. But what we are doing as for now, because we do know that the more we are looking for a resolution, we need to document these crimes. And that is why we are now, when we are rescuing a kid, we are documenting any possible piece of information to be able then to provide, as we are doing now, information through our partners to International Criminal Court and to other different institutions for justice then to come afterwards.
We in Canada received numerous media reports back, I guess, 3 years ago, in the initial months of the Russian invasion of Ukraine, of sexual abuse of Russian soldiers, almost seemingly under orders. It would appear, abusing some of the females, particularly young females, in towns that they were invading in Ukraine. But we haven't heard that of late. Is that still happening today? And if it is, how do you deal with young girls that have been raped?
We just yesterday brought back a girl who had 3 attempts being sexually abused from Russian soldiers. Yeah, and it was abuse because she told our psychologist many things, and we started our rehabilitation process. And it's very hard to identify because that people, Ukrainians who lived in occupied territories in Russia, they have no rights. They have no rights. They have no authorities to call, to inform about it, and to escape to that who will protect them from Russian soldiers. And another girl, 12 years old girl, we rescued, told can you hear?
Yes.
Another girl, 12 years. She was sitting in her apartment more than 3 years, and she was really afraid to go out, and she was isolated for 3 years. Can you imagine this? Because she was really afraid. She heard about sexual abuse. She was really afraid to go out, and we rescued her. And I can tell you a lot of stories like that. And that's why it's very important to find that kids and to help them being rescued. That's why if you ready being in Canada to support our rescue missions, we will be so grateful, and maybe through your support we will be able to rescue more kids.
It's Mykola, is that correct?
Mykola.
Mykola, is your sense that this is just something that happens because, it's war and the soldiers are filled with testosterone and just do it? Or is this a program? Have they been told? Have they been ordered to do this? What's your sense?
I think because Russian propaganda, because Russia telling that Ukrainians, it is a Nazi, it is that humans, it's not even humans, and you can do what you want. If they not obey your rules, if they want resist regime, if they want to prove that they want to stay Ukrainians, you can do with them what you want. And let me give you one example. It's a little kid who been rescued. He attended Russian school in occupied territories. He was first to attend Russian schools. And in these schools, they have separation. All classes separated, and you have to choose to be a Russian military, to be a Russian policeman, or to be a Russian cadet. You have no other option. Only these options. You have to choose who do you want to be. And this boy tried to resist and told, I don't want to be a Russian military or cadet or policeman. And he was abused. Many other kids abused him, bullied him, because he didn't choose his role. And only this role they could play in even schools. And that's why I'm trying to explain you that a life in occupied territories, it's a nightmare. And
Certainly sounds like
many
it. Certainly
kids
sounds like it.
suffer, and families.
Anastasia, if people are listening tonight and they want to help, what should they do? Where do they go? What do they do?
So there's two ways. First of all, you can anytime go to saveukrainea.org to donate to us directly, but also till the end of the day, 23rd of June, you could use a special opportunity to go and support our Every Child Deserves a Future campaign together with Canadian Ukrainian Foundation to support the rescue and rehabilitation of Ukrainian stolen children through our joint efforts. Please do that. Please donate. Please in any possible sum that is comfortable for you, because as being told above, it's your absolute and appropriate investment in their lives.
Anastasia and Mykola, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate you coming on and telling us about your organization, and good luck and stay safe. And I hope you rescue a lot more children. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're going to take a final break, and I'm going to come back in just 2 minutes with some of my own thoughts on this topic. Stay with us, everybody. Back in 2.